Hello and welcome to Whiskey with Rye. I'm Rye, and the whiskey I'm with today is Bulleit Bourbon. On every episode of Whiskey with Rye, we'll talk about the distillery, the mash bill, and the taste three different ways: straight, with water, and on the rocks. So, as I mentioned in the Maker's Mark episode, and if you haven't watched that, make sure you go back and watch it. I called Maker's Mark my gateway whiskey, which really led me into trying a bunch of different things. Uh, I will call Bulleit the whiskey that made me fall in love with whiskey. Between their rye, which you'll see at a later time, and their standard bourbon, it just made me really enjoy the nuances, the category, how different everything can be between each other. Like the difference between Maker's Mark and Bulleit is pretty large. Um, so this, I believe, originally was sourced from MGP. Their rye, it looks like, still is, but again, we'll talk about that in the rye episode. But is their own now, and it comes in at 68% corn, 28% rye, and 4% malted barley. So it is a high rye bourbon, which is kind of what I appreciated most about it, especially coming from the softer Maker's Mark, the wheated, softer, sweeter. This was real nice kind of punch after all of that. So, like I said, really enjoy Bulleit. They took over an old distillery to make it new again, which is kind of cool. And they have a few different products that you'll see under the Bulleit label, and then also that are still produced from Stitzel Weller, I believe it was. And that's Blade and Bow. And again, we will definitely talk about those in a future episode. So this is their tattoo bottle. Hopefully you can see it there. They teamed up with different tattoo artists across the country to help design tattoos for the back of the bottle. So it's a special edition. Again, some people may not open these, but I'm not some people, right? As we've talked about, it's made to be shared. So speaking of sharing, let's jump into it, shall we? So first, as always, we're going to pour our neat or straight in our water pour. And then we will also pour our rocks pour. So as always, we will jump into the nose first on the straight. So automatically, I'm getting a lot more of the rye notes, the spicy herbal notes that are out there for different ryes. And it's followed by, once you get past kind of the pepper, it's followed by a nice caramel in the background. And then a little bit of the wood notes come through as well. It can be a little much on first approach, but once you kind of get past the alcohol smell, which is there really on all whiskeys, it really smooths out and levels out for you. So now we will jump into the taste. First impression is the wood really is forward on this. This came in at 45%, so 90 proof. And as you can tell, the alcohol really hits first. And then the wood shows up. And on the finish, really a dark chocolate or really rich milk chocolate comes through. Yeah, the wood really mellows out. And the chocolate note, which I've never gotten from Bulleit before. So it just goes to show how your palate will evolve as you try different things and different pattern recognitions. But it's a really dark milk chocolate to kind of lighter dark chocolate, if that makes sense. One more taste. There's a slight hint of like a cherry cordial. I think overall that's kind of the flavor I'm getting is the chocolate covered cherry cordials where you have the cream inside and the cherry and the chocolate covering it. Overall, it's a really enjoyable palate. You can pick it apart a little bit to get different things, and that cherry kind of shows up on the nose a little bit once you go back to it after having sipped some. So now we will add a couple drops of water. Proof it down just a little bit, just to see how it changes. So not much. It's already at 90 proof, so it doesn't need to go much down. So sorry, I'm having a hard time. There's a certain note there that I'm having a hard time putting my finger on. It's almost like fresh cut pine, like not the needles, but the actual wood. A little bit of that cherry. Yeah, and then the chocolate actually does kind of show up right at the tail end. So cheers. So after adding the water, um, it actually feels a bit thicker, with butterscotch on the front end, a little bit of wood, and then black pepper on the finish. Yeah, it's like a caramel butterscotch sweetness right on the front. Like not just white sugar, but like, and not brown sugar, but like the caramel type sweetness. And then it just kind of turns into just wood and pepper. So, prefer it straight so far. So, as always, I have my handy dandy Yeti. We're going to pop one rocket. That's it for just a little bit. And as always, as well, we will offer one to the dog. Want that? He doesn't want it. Of course not, right? It'll just be a puddle on the floor. It's fine. So, jumping in. Wow, okay, so that really enhances the chocolate cherry nose that I'm getting off of this. And turns into a slight hint of pink bubblegum. Like double bubble or probably more big league chew. Or it has like the probably cornstarch on the outside of the strips of gum. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the nose a lot more with the ice as opposed to the water, but it's very different from straight, so it's hard to really compare the two. But we'll jump in. Get a lot more of that sweetness with the ice, with a hit of the pepper at the back of the throat after you swallow your sip. And then as the ice continues to chill and water it down, kind of just disappears. Like you still know you're drinking whiskey, but it kind of just tastes like whiskey. Really just more of the alcohol. So while the nose was great, the taste with the ice wasn't so much. So I would definitely go straight, then water, and then on the rocks with this. But I still think it's a good entry to bourbon, especially if you like, kind of the more herbal, peppery things. I think it'll really tick those boxes for you. So that is it for me. Thank you for joining, and make sure you click like and subscribe, and click the bell if you want the notifications. But an episode is debuted noon on Wednesdays Eastern time. So until next week, cheers.